In a galaxy far, far away, there exists a group of fierce and fabulous women who are on a mission to explore the depths of pop culture. They are the Galactic Gals, and they are here to take you on a journey through the cosmos of entertainment. From the latest TV shows and movies to a trip down the Milky Way of nostalgia, they will delve into the worlds of fantasy and imagination, bringing you insights and analysis that are out of this world. So buckle up, cosmonauts, and get ready to blast off with the Galactic Gals Pop Culture Podcast.
Hello. Welcome to episode 13. And we are your home for awesome nostalgia.
Hang on just a second. I'm trying to bring that poster back.
Okay. Really? Well, I can help you out with that, actually. I really can. So I'm about to share the screen. You're about to see it. So
Galactic Gals best art on YouTube. There we go.
Yeah.
My future beyond my future.
So what does everybody think of the new artwork? No, this won't be the main screen. This is just for our special edition stream today, which is the 70s sci-fi, horror, and fantasy movies and TV shows. So
in my mind, over the last 24 hours, I've kind of composed complete histories for these two, like where we met, things we like to do.
Well, see, my history for these two chicks is totally different than what yours is, I'm sure.
I think it's brilliant.
I love the what I love about this poster is it looks like they're they're one of the Space 1999 crew. In the orange jumpsuit a little bit. So
yeah, I was telling Andy before the show that these really remind me of those cool sci-fi paperback covers, like in the 70s or early 80s, the kind of Boris Vallejo stylized art like that. It really reminds me of that. It's just great.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. It really does look like there's a story here. Like these are two chicks that I mean, other than just what Neil Hardiman can come up with, you know, in his own dirty mind. But I'm not talking about 70s porn here. We're talking about like good sci-fi, you know.
Yeah, no, there was no bomb chicka bow wow going on in my head. I was just going, oh well, okay, that's nice.
Sure. Yeah, huh. Anyway. Yeah, so today we're talking about the 1970s, the best of the movies, TV, and of course in the three genres, the three trilogy genres, sci-fi, horror, and fantasy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And the two panelists, my co-host and Gary, the resident galactic guy.
Yes, thank you.
I was going to ask you, like, we could just call you Guy, like in Galaxy Quest. You know, you're that guy. You know.
All right, that's fine. If you want to label and stereotype me like that, I'm good. I'm good with it.
Get you a red shirt and a tag that says Guy.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I don't know if Gary'd wear a red shirt though.
No, I was telling Andy before. So in honor of the 70s, I have my Time Wars shirt because it's kind of in the style of the original Star Wars poster. So
cool.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah. We won't be talking about Doctor Who today.
Doctor Who sucked in the 70s. We all know that.
Yeah, right. What do you mean? I mean, the Chris Chibnall era ruled, right? I mean, that was the golden age.
Wait. What did you just say?
I think she's being sarcastic.
Good night, everybody. Somebody call the people in the white jackets.
Yeah, I've really lost my mind. No, the 70s was definitely obviously great Doctor Who, but we won't be talking about Doctor Who today. So we'll be talking about anything but Doctor Who today, actually.
Yes.
And that's, you know, I mean, we talk a lot about Doctor Who, so we do need a break.
Yes.
Yeah. So Kelly says that Gary's worn a bikini top. Just saying. I'm not sure what this is in reference to.
You know what she's in when.
I mean, I know it's in reference to, but as far as our conversations that we've been having, unless it's a private conversation, I don't know. I don't judge.
I'll never live that down. But,
you won't, and I'll make sure that you don't.
That's right.
I don't know what was worse about that outfit. What I really think the bikini part was bad, but it was the wig that was just so beyond.
And I just want to let the world know that I was actually bullied into doing that. So it wasn't.
Oh
just
yeah,
me.
because it was supposed to be me, and then I said no. I don't want to. I don't want to like I don't want to be objectified. You know,
yes, I'll happily be
above
objectified.
that, right? So let's objectify Gary and have a
no.
good laugh.
I'll happily be objectified.
Those were good days, you know, before the dark times. Anyway, just excuse my horrible Star Wars.
Okay, read Archer's comment.
I'm afraid. What is he saying? We won't be talking about Doctor Who today. So anyone wants to guess how long until the name Peter Capaldi gets mentioned?
I'll say 90 seconds, Colin.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I don't know what the prize is, but whoever catches me saying that name, other than just now if I've said it, I don't know what you get, but you win. So
at some point during the show today, Andy will say something like, that TV/movie would have been so much better if Peter Capaldi.
No, I'm gonna make a really concerted effort not to say it. How about that? Now, Paul McGann is just, I can say that as much as I want.
Okay, all right.
Have to agree.
And I agree with John. That name rules. I know what you're doing there, John.
Yes.
I know what.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
So
she's wise to you now.
I'm yes. So okay. So we're gonna share. I'm gonna present now. Like I'm in an office.
Well, we should probably say that again for anybody who wasn't here for our Great 60 show, and if you weren't, what was the matter with you? But it's still up. So go find our jaunt through the 60s. We were tasked with picking 5 of our favorite TV or movies from the 70s, sci-fi, fantasy, horror.
Yes. That just sounds weird when you say it all like that. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But you're first, Gary. So you're
Oh,
the
I
first
am?
on the line.
Oh,
So
really?
everyone's
Okay.
going to judge your choices. So
Okay.
hope you
Are we
chose
just
well.
well? Okay. Are we doing all of mine, or are we just mixing things around?
No, because I don't think you guys you might have had some of the same ones. I don't remember. It's been a while since I put this together.
Okay.
But if so, I put your little icons together. So
Okay.
you'll have like,
Okay.
if it's just you, it'll just be a picture of this person that I'm not going to say.
Oh, okay.
And then
PC.
and then for Night Owl, which I can say, there will be a picture of a person that I cannot say. Do you see a trend here? God, I am
no trend at
Okay.
all.
I am doing very well with this. I cannot say his name. I cannot say it. All right. So Gary,
Okay.
this is what you've been waiting for all week. I've not heard all this talk of you geeking out. So here we go.
Yes. So first of all, I think far and away for me, my favorite, the 70s for me is, I think, the best ever decade for genre TV. Just absolutely amazing. And I'm going to start with my favorite ever horror series, which is Kolchak the Night Stalker, starring the incomparable Darren McGavin as investigative reporter Carl Kolchak, who ends up stumbling upon all manner of ghouls, zombies, vampires, ghosts, etc. This series was on for one season in 74, 75. It was a follow-up to the original Night Stalker television movie, which in 72, which was the highest rated TV movie of all time up to that point. And it's about Kolchak, who's stationed in Las Vegas, ends up encountering what turns out to be an actual vampire. And it, to this day, is still one of the best TV movies ever. It is on YouTube complete if you haven't seen it yet. So do yourself a big favor and go watch it. That was followed up with the next year with The Night Strangler, where he encounters an immortal ghoul in the streets below Seattle. And then we have to the series, where which starred McGavin there and the great Simon Oakland as his put upon boss, who would always, was despairing every time that Kolchak went off on his crusades. And the picture at the right is actually from the original TV movie, where Kolchak encounters Janos Skorzeny, who's actually turns out to be a vampire. And this was a great show because, admittedly, the budget probably wasn't what we desired it to be, but the mood and the tone was great. He encountered all kinds of things from, like I said, zombies to werewolves to, ghouls to whatever. This show was actually, it only ran 20 episodes. And even Chris Carter decades later, cited this series as the direct influence for his creating the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
And this show actually inspired somebody else to create one of my favorite shows. So I can't hate on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, great. No, it's, and a lot of people got their start on it. Bob Zemeckis and Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, who went on to do such movies you may have heard of, like the Back to the Future trilogy, wrote their first ever script for Kolchak the Night Stalker in an episode called The Chopper. And there were some great, I'll just mention a couple. There's a great episode called The Zombie, which is really terrifying. There's an episode called The Vampire, which is a direct sequel to the original TV movie there. There's one called Horror in the Heights, where he fights this Hindu entity called the Rakshasa, which takes on the forms of people that you trust and then kills you. Really, really great. And it's on MeTV every weekend. Kolchak does have a Dark Shadows connection too. Actually, yes, the original TV movie was produced by Dan Curtis, who created Dark Shadows, and written by horror sci-fi novelist Richard Matheson. And then The Night Strangler, the next year, was also directed by Dan Curtis as well, and then written by Matheson. But Dan Curtis didn't have anything to do then with the actual, when it went to the series. But it's a tremendously fun series, and I just recommend it.
So it's on you. So the two movies are on YouTube, right?
Yes.
So we have no excuses. We go right today, and
you know what? And I actually think
right?
I'm not sure if the episodes are because I mean I just go by. I mean I don't check because I just have the set, but there's every chance that the episodes might be on YouTube then. But start with the original TV movie, and
I want to say that I have like looked into where to watch the series as well, because it is on my list. I still, I know things just other shows, get in front of this one. I have no excuses, but the last time that I looked into watching it, I think Peacock had it.
Oh, great.
And I believe Tubi, one of those others. I'll have to look, and hopefully if I can remember, I will put the links in the description. So anything that we can get away with watching for free, let's do it, right?
Absolutely. It's just start with the original TV movie so you get familiar with the characters, but the episodes can be watched in any order.
And I also think that the B movie stream do this one a while back. When can probably say. I don't know. I seem to recall.
Okay.
I think they did one of the movies, I think. When would have to answer that question. She would definitely know. But I mean, if you want one
theme,
word,
and great theme music too on the opening credits, very memorable. So it's just great.
So I put some facts here, but I'm sure you already know all of these. I'm sure by heart.
No, the watchers can see them.
But I thought I'd put those up there just in case anybody was interested in any kind of like trivia or. So Michelle, I'm assuming you haven't seen this either.
Mm-mm. But I do remember Chris Carter in an interview talking about it, that he was really inspired by the series. So
he actually wanted to bring he actually wanted to bring Darren McGavin back as Kolchak for one episode, but Kolchak didn't want to do the character. So there was an episode where Darren McGavin played a character called Arthur Dales, who was like a inspiration for Mulder.
Okay.
And so that was kind of having it.
So I have heard that they did a remake of this with Stuart Townsend, and I would think that I would get that reaction from you. And it didn't last very long.
It lasted like 10 episodes or whatever, and it was one of these let's make it all serialized and throw in all these extraneous characters. It was
yeah. That's what I was thinking. It's like the Dark Shadows remake. From just the clips that I've seen, it didn't look as good at all.
And there's a company called Moonstone, which over the years has published dozens of Kolchak novels and still is doing it. So this has stayed around for 50 years. So.
Wow.
All right. So let's go to your next one. And I don't even remember which one this is. I don't remember which one. Oh, okay. I do remember.
I know that
one. Absolutely.
So you can see from the icon to the left that I will not say of that person. And you guys chose the same actor for your icons.
Oh, did you pick this one too, Michelle?
No. Your little Discord like icon is both the person that I cannot say the name.
Okay, no, that's a Malcolm Tucker icon. You can just say Malcolm Tucker.
Yeah, no, I still think that they get me on that.
Okay.
I'm not gonna know.
Okay, so my second is the awesome and amazing Lindsay Wagner as the Bionic Woman for 3 seasons, from 76 to 78. Obviously, a spinoff from the $6 Million Man, from a 2-part episode where she was an old love of Steve Austin and gets into a parachute accident. And as you can see from the picture, both legs, her right arm and her right ear were replaced with bionics. At the end of that TV movie, though, she starts rejecting the bionics and dies. And there was such an outcry from fans that they had Kenneth Johnson figured a way, to bring her back without a lot of her memories, so they could kind of separate it out from $6 Million Man. And she becomes a school teacher while she's working for the OSI as a secret agent. And one of the many reasons why I love this show is that I actually preferred this really even now to $6 Million Man, because $6 Million Man was more about the action adventure, you know, the physicality and stuff. And Bionic Woman actually, you know, was a lot more dramatic. It covered, because she was a school teacher, you know, and didn't want to devote her whole life to being a secret agent. They could bring in other things she was involved with, and it wasn't just all about her jumping and running and doing all that kind of things. So I preferred the dramatics of it. At the time, Lindsay Wagner doing this series was the highest paid woman on television in a dramatic series. Wow. And the other thing I liked is, because Steve Austin was pretty much a de facto Superman, they actually kind of limited her powers. For example, I mean, within the context of the show, I don't want to say she had more realistic powers, but within the context of the show, she had more kind of believable powers. Like, for example, she could jump, and, you know, the picture on the right there obviously is from the opening credits, you know, where at the end of the opening credits, she's making the jump in her iconic jogger suit. But for example, she could leap from a second floor, not the third floor, but she could leap from a second floor. There was one episode where she was forced to leap higher, and she landed and basically blew out the bionics on her legs. And for example, she could turn over a car, but she couldn't like lift a truck or whatever, kind of like Steve Austin could do. So they were limiting her powers a little bit. And but there was still a lot of tie-ins. Sometimes they would do tie-ins like you know, like the Bigfoot episodes or the Fembot episodes, which would start. They always
had those in the 70s. That was the thing.
They would start
either Satanism or Bigfoot.
Well, yeah. Well, Bigfoot, they were using that little spinny tunnel, which at the time was the Universal Studios that they used, that spinny ice tunnel and stuff. And so they would have like episodes that would start on the $6 Million Man and then continue into Bionic Woman and then go back to $6 Million Man. So there was a lot of tie-ins and stuff. The reason that I had you put the picture on the left is this is from my favorite episode of the series. It's a two-parter called Doomsday is Tomorrow. And it's this dying scientist creates this doomsday device to force the world powers into like an enforced peace. But of course it goes wrong, and Jamie has to fight this supercomputer that's counting down to setting off Armageddon. It's a great, great episode. I think it was written by Kenneth Johnson, who is the creator of the series. And Kenneth Johnson, whose name you will hear again during this stream. So, they're good question, Kelly Lynch. Does Jennifer Lawrence know that Lindsay Wagner made so much money as action? Oh no, we can't count.
Not. That didn't start until like her time.
No.
Yeah, and it didn't start until the
then in the
2022 or back whenever she said that. Back
in the 90s, of course, they brought her back and Lee Majors for 3 reunion movies, the $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman in the 90s. But no, so this is
I loved it when I was a kid. I did. I haven't seen it in years. I couldn't tell you any kind of episodes or anything, but I loved the show when I was a kid. I mean, I knew people were into $6 Million Man, but I watched that too. But to me, I thought the Bionic Woman was a superior show.
Yeah,
I mean, to my like 7-year-old self or whatever, however it was, 4 or 5, something like that. To me, it was the better of the two, but still both great shows. But I couldn't tell you which. I mean, if I watched it now, it'd be like watching the show like from like I've never seen it before, other than I know the idea behind it. But still a great show.
I remember watching that as a kid, and I'm like, gosh, why can't I run that fast?
Right. The only thing I didn't understand is like, and I guess they thought it was a neat thing to do, is like every time, she did the bionics, she was all very slow motion. And, I didn't think that was weird at all. Now actually seeing clips, it just seems kind of strange.
Because I think the opening credits, they have it in slow motion. Like when the letters, the Bionic Woman come up, it's when she's kind of slow-mo running. So they don't, like I said, I think that was part of it, kind of keeping it not
right.
fantastical.
It was just when she's fighting somebody. I think I saw a clip the other day, and it was just very, and at the time and I remember going outside trying to, do everything in slow motion like that, because I thought it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and there was tons of merchandise for this show. I mean, they had the
yeah,
doll, obviously.
I always wanted the doll. I never got it.
You know, I think they both had dolls, but you know, and like you could take. I've seen a picture. I guess you could take part of the arm off, and there's bionics. You can see the bionics like in her arm on the doll. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Man.
Here's some facts. I'm not going to read all these because I want to have a voice by the end of this.
And
So-
I did not watch. I didn't even bother to watch the remake with the admittedly beautiful Michelle Ryan, but I did not even bother with the remake.
Actually,
about, like, 10 years ago.
this is a weird thing. Like, we went to Universal Studios around that time that show was about to be released, and we were approached by somebody. I guess they have people that come out and they go, "Hey, would you like to go to a screening of the Bionic Woman?" And I'm like, "Nah, nah." It was the new one, and they would do that at Universal. They would, if they had a new show that they're working on. Sometimes people would stop people in the in the park.
Well, but you know,
and go,
had
"Hey,
you gone
wanna-"
had you gone to the screening, Andy, you could have provided them valuable feedback where they could have retooled the show and actually make it good.
I
enough
would
to
have
stay
no,
on
it
the
would
air.
have been cursing. Like, get it, let's go. Get up, Jason, let's go. I'm not watching this shit. This is garbage. That's what it would be. So yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Trying to move along here.
Yep.
So here's another one.
Fantastic
I have never
Journey.
seen this show ever.
Now,
Me neither.
this was a short live. Hang on, where is it? So this is the DVD, which you can get now. It was just 10 episodes out of a projected 13, but they only aired 10. Basically, you know, the mid 70s, you know, everything was like there were movies about the Bermuda Triangle, there were TV movies about the Bermuda Triangle. Everything was the Bermuda Triangle. You know,
yes.
that was out and around.
I remember in search of, they would do
In Search of the
on it,
Bermuda
right?
Triangle. There was even
Yeah.
like, you know, movies, I guess, that were out. So basically, the premise of this show is that there's a scientific expedition in the Atlantic that gets lost in the Bermuda Triangle, and they land on this kind of uncharted island that's populated by travelers from different times or planets or dimensions, but they all exist in their own kind of little zone. And they're all trapped there, but it's possible to wander through like a doorway to go from zone to zone to zone. And this group of travelers you see on the left there, led by Jared Martin, who plays Varian, who's from the 23rd century. Ike Eisenman, you remember from the Witch Mountain movies. He plays the son of a human scientist from the 70s. And he lands on the island with Fred, who's the guy in the back, who's a doctor. And then they meet Liana, the woman there, who is, her father's an alien and her mother was Atlantean. And then Roddy McDowell, who's this kind of like, not really like a Dr. Smith character, or an anti-hero, but he's this renegade scientist from the 60s. And the five of them eventually band together and move from zone to zone to zone, trying to find their way out. Obviously it was the direct inspiration, even though it was on a short time, it's the direct inspiration for shows like Sliders, which is the exact same premise. And I just really have a fondness for it. It's not really too kitschy. It's a premise that really, I think is a really, really, really inventive premise that I think you could redo now without any kind of problem. You know, of course, a lot of times back in the 70s, the shows just weren't given enough time to. Oh, and then Dorothy Fontana, who was one of the key writers from Star Trek, the original series, was the story editor on this. And there was a couple of other Star Trek writers who wrote episodes and stuff. And so
it's definitely well written then.
Yeah, I mean, for like mid 70s and stuff, I mean, yeah, it wasn't the greatest budget, but I mean, in terms of a great premise, and the actors were all really likable and had great chemistry together, and you know, should have been longer, or at least long enough to end the story. But I just have a real fondness for this.
Yeah, I just looked up just to watch to see if it was anywhere streaming. It's actually not. So
well, like I said, it's on for anybody who wants to. It is on video. And to answer Colin's, Lovejoy was in the first episode. I'm blanking. The actor's name who played Lovejoy, but everybody, why am I blanking on that? But yeah, he was in the pilot episode. So great series. That's all for that. But like I said, it's obscure, but 70s is full of obscure
It really
shows.
was. I vaguely remember
Ian
this,
McShane.
just seeing the pictures, it does, I do remember. I don't know if I watched the show, but I remember advertisements for it, when I was young. So
yeah, it might be on YouTube. I mean, I don't check.
Yeah,
video,
and
but it could be.
Odyssey is another place. If I can't find anything on YouTube's, it depends. But Odyssey, the streaming site is pretty good at finding obscure stuff. So
and it's just 10 episodes, and with Roddy McDowall in it, I mean, come on,
can't go wrong. Okay, so
let's see. Here we go.
Well, you really picked some ones that I've never heard of.
Now this was a great. There were so many great genre shows from the UK in the 70s, not even counting Doctor Who, obviously. And this is one. Now, this seems like it's called a children's adventure story, but let me tell you, all of the genre, like miniseries and even series like this, they would be for children, but they weren't like the lowest common denominator stuff like a lot of the US was producing, where they dumb everything down. Those shows are all really well thought out, really original, well acted, even by the kids. And this, to me, is part of the height of UK television. This is only on for one season, from 70 to 71, and it's called Time Slip. And the premise is that these two kids, Liz and Simon, in a field in this kind of deserted military base, encounter like a time barrier, as you can see the picture there on the left, which when they push through it kind of lets them travel within this kind of time bubble, I guess, to the past and to alternate futures. And the themes of the stories, it was basically 4 multi-part stories that all tied together and linked in with each other over the course of the only season of the show. So it's almost like one big story for the whole year. And it's a lot of the themes were about the way that man abuses and misuses like science and technology. And does an individual really control their own destiny, or do they have to live by the predetermined? Can you change your own future? And all this stuff. And so they even had at the beginning of the first episode the scientific correspondent for the channel that this was on to come out at the beginning and speak about the concept of time bubbles, and movement in time and everything, because the concepts are so complex. And like I said, they start out going back to the past and meeting their parents in the 1940s, but of course they can't say who they are. And then they get kicked forward to the future where Britain's in an ice age. And then they get kicked forward to an alternate future where the world's burning up and the UK is like a big jungle. And then all of that. The picture on the right there is from the Icebox episode. And it's one of the big climaxes where probably the best guest character of that whole serial, which is the woman, like ages and dies there pretty traumatically at the end of the story. So that's what that's from. And even now, Big Finish has released a couple of a couple of original dramas that's set in the modern day, but it's actually starring the two actors there, Cheryl Burfield and Spencer Banks, reprising their own characters as adults now in these new Big Finish serials. So it's really worth hunting down. I think it's pretty well known among UK viewers, and it's great because it's really yes, it's for children, but it's absolutely absorbing for adults because they play it straight, they don't dumb it down. They write for really intelligent kids, and so it's really, really good science fiction.
I mean, I don't see it streaming anywhere, but again, that doesn't mean I can't find it. Sail the seas.
I'd be
Okay.
surprised if on one of these, something like, I don't know, BritBox or something like that. I'd be stunned if this wasn't on there. Or like
I actually
Acorn or
haven't had
something.
BritBox in a couple of years because mostly what I was watching on there was Classic Who and Red Dwarf. So
Yeah, no, I get it.
I didn't,
And
but they went up on their price too, and it's just like,
yeah,
you're
I
still
know.
not.
And to Archer's question, yes, the Big Finish, the new dramas from Big Finish are good. So let's see. So it says the show contains a number of theories about how time travel could be realized. That's right, because they go to alternative times. Shows generally made well regarded. It was part adventure story, part puzzle, part horror story. Yes, because their alternate futures were pretty horrifying. And the other main character was this Dennis Quilley, who's a great British actor, played this character, Commander Trainer, that they kept encountering in each of the past and alternate times. It's like sometimes an enemy, sometimes an ally. What was his nature really, and all this stuff. So it's a really good a year-long arc story, which back in 1970 was not really was kind of unheard of for these types of shows. So I just really give it a high recommendation.
All right, so let's go to get to your next selection.
Well, this show could have gone wrong in so many ways.
Right, it could have.
Mid-70s superhero. And the fact that this is turns into one of the best loved genre shows of all time, even to this day, is a real testament. Kenneth Johnson, of course, the creator, and Bill. I mean, what Bill Bixby? What
Bill
can you
Bixby,
say
like,
in
yeah,
this?
I think that was and how it was written. It wasn't written just like a regular comic book. It was written like, I don't know, like a more of a serious, not like.
Oh, absolutely.
For the Hulk, he was hulking out every second. It was like the scenes that I actually do enjoy, and then I'll let you get back. Or the scenes where it's just him, traveling, and Jack McGee, he's trying to escape from that. That to me is the most. As a kid, it was the Hulk, obviously.
Yeah, I think.
But as an adult, it's more the, David Banner.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's not comic booky. I think I even read once Bill Bixby said, had it been comic booky, he wouldn't have even have done it.
Right.
Which I get, because there's no future in something like that.
No.
And I still think the original pilot is probably still the best genre television pilot that's ever been made. I think because the characters are so believable. I mean, he's lost his wife. He's desperate to find out why he couldn't save her, why all these other people can lift cars and perform superhuman feats to save their loved ones, and he couldn't. He's obsessed by it. And that obsession, as we all know, leads to your downfall, and he makes the tragic mistake and overdoses himself on gamma rays and is now trapped by his own, mistake. And I think it was genius to change from the comics and not make the Hulk be able to talk. This show would have died if they would have had him talk.
Yeah, I agree. I really do. And I watched as a kid, but a few years ago, it's been probably about 3 years ago. I watched, like, I binged all the seasons.
I know.
And
I
needed to do another binge because you need to forget things, right? I enjoyed it immensely, except season 5. That's kind of when it's like, it was time to go. But season 1 and 2 were really good. Just again, the whole thing that he's on the run, from basically, being stalked by a journalist who, in my last go around, as a kid, I realized I kind of looked at the guy as a pest, but I don't know. And this go around, and the last go around, I was like, wow, he's kind of a vulture, isn't he? It
was basically Kenneth Johnson doing Les Miserables in a comic book setting, where Javert is relentless in tracking Jean Valjean. I mean, he just took that and translated that to this. I think I do, though, and of course, the iconic narration, we all memorize David Banner, physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap hidden strengths that all humans have. The fact that they they had Lou Ferrigno there, who didn't talk and who was just this like a force of nature. Was great. And like you said, they didn't. It wasn't just him bashing around and stuff. I mean, they really, with Kenneth Johnson, the stories are going to be really top quality. I mean, and it wasn't issues oriented, although sometimes it was. There was an episode called "A Child in Need" where David encounters.
I actually really like that one.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
I
like
really
working
did.
as a school custodian, encounters this young boy who he comes to realize is being abused, and has to. And of course, child abuse is not something that you can be fixed by the Hulk smashing in a door,
right?
But they still address it in a really good way.
And in the 70s, they always had a very special episode. I think that was it for this one.
Yeah, and there was another one where he encounters like some girl at like a disco who's like has a drug
problem.
problem.
Yeah, and she looks like Kiss or whatever. And
yeah,
I think it was.
That.
Yeah, I know the actress. I can't think of
her
name.
I think
Mackenzie
it was Mackenzie
Phillips.
Yeah, and I mean, some of just a few of my favorite episodes. The pilot, obviously, which I think is good. I think that well, of course, before I run down a couple of episode titles, we have to talk about the music.
Oh yeah.
We have to talk about that end title, which is called the Lonely Man theme, the piano. I mean, if anybody remembers the Hulk, that piano theme is the first thing that you think of if it's not Bill Bixby. Every episode ends with him alone again, going out. And I always wondered, wait a minute, he had to run off and all of his clothes were racked. Where did he go back to get his duffel bag with a new set of clothes?
Right.
I always, even as a kid, was going, wait a minute, is there some group that's funding him or something?
I know, because like he went through so many clothes, man. It was like, oh man, I just got this shirt. Like, you know,
even in the opening credits, I think you see him when he muscles up. You could see the shirt splitting, I think, in the opening credits.
Right.
Or something. That's the one thing, though. I really think that maybe around like the middle of season 3 or the beginning of season 4, they should have changed it up some way by adding some twist or another element into the show that wasn't just him for 5 seasons of run. I mean, that's fine, but I just think there
needed to be like some point where he kind of like starts, and there was, right? He did meet another woman, and obviously that ended in tragedy as well.
Well, here's the thing, though. Before I end this by just naming a couple of my favorite episodes, I want to actually say I do not consider those 3 later 90s TV movies part of this.
We're in the 70s. That doesn't exist
because here. No. I mean, even though Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno came back, clearly they were really designed to just be pilot TV movies for other Marvel characters. He meets like Thor in one. He meets Daredevil in the other, and I don't even consider that really part of the thing because Kenneth Johnson wasn't involved. That's not how he was planning on ending the series. I started
watching one and I couldn't get through it.
No,
I
it's not the same.
Couldn't.
I mean, Bill Bixby. I put those in an alternate kind of universe and stuff.
So, so list your favorite.
So a couple of the pilot is great. Obviously, there's in the second season, a 2-parter called Married, where David Banner gets married, and of course that ends in tragedy. But that's a great. Actually, I think Mariette Hartley won an Emmy for that guest star role in that episode. The Child in Need already mentioned. Mystery Man, which is of course where they do change it up because that's when Jack McGee finds out that the Hulk is actually a man who changes into the Hulk.
Right. Right.
You know, so they changed that up a little. Another great one called Homecoming, where David Banner is so homesick that he goes home to visit his sister and his dad on their farm, and kind of who believed he's dead, and kind of get involved with helping to save the farm is a good one. And the last one I want to mention is the one you have the picture up there called The First, where the David encounters somebody who actually turns out to be a Hulk before he became the Hulk.
Yes.
And the one thing about that is at the end, I'm not really spoiling anything because he actually does invent his cure in this episode. And in the climactic thing where the other guy changes and grabs the thing with the antidote and like throws it in slow motion is against the wall. And David is like screaming like, no, because he knows that's his cure. And it smashes to bits and he like starts sobbing and breaking down. And that loss is what then triggers him into the Hulk. It's not always him getting angry. He's so distraught because he just lost his cure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was really a powerful scene.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we all know the Hulk. Go out and watch it. Actually, like I said, I didn't like this TV movie, so I gotta say that a few years ago, I actually, just as an exercise for me, I actually wrote an outline and a breakdown of what I thought the actual 2-hour series finale should be, and it was beat for beat and everything. I called it Final Fury, and wrapping up David and McGee's whole story. And actually, and I posted online a couple places, people going, wow, this is great. They should have done this.
So are you going to come on the show and read it and have it
So I'll have to find it. It's in a file somewhere. I mean, it involves his sister and everything. And so I think it turned out well.
I remember watching that as a kid with my parents. You know, we'd all be glued in there.
So obviously you were really into the show when you were a kid, Michelle. So what's your thoughts on the show? And then we'll get to yours. But
I liked it. I know he's the only Hulk for me. Mark Ruffalo is second, but any of the others, just like no, they just no, couldn't get through them. You know. So I like the idea though that he was always wandering and everything, but wherever he went, he would always help somebody in need. You know, I haven't seen that show in a long time. I guess I'm gonna have to go back and revisit it.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, you really should. I looked on Just Watch. It's not streaming, but again, we have our ways of finding these things.
Right.
And obviously, you can go on Amazon. eBay is a good source, and DVD set, or just start buying the first season and then build up.
It's on Blu-ray.
Yeah, that's true. I need to get the Blu-ray set. I really do. That's gonna be my next purchase, I think.
Yeah.
So okay, so I guess do we need facts? Not really. I think Gary knows probably more facts than anybody on this planet.
The facts are that he was the Hulk and he was incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. So, and I don't know why I forgot to put your little icon on this for whatever reason. I was tired, so
that's okay. You don't have to say his name. We don't have to say his name.
Right, and I'm not. And you know what? I've been doing really good.
Who's in that icon, Andy?
Don't know.
Some guy. Paul McGann.
Okay.
Paul McGann. I can say that. Paul McGann. So watch next stream. They'll let's see how long it takes her before she says Paul McGann, and then I just won't say Paul McGann anymore.
There you go. That's right. Okay.
So, so this one, I'm like delighted that you picked this.
Oh, I love The Hobbit. Gosh, I was, I guess, in the early 80s watching that, and that ties into my Dungeons and Dragons game playing and everything, and watched that movie so many times. And even today, in this time period, all of my kids love that movie and will watch it. It just, the animation for the time is spot on. The voices are spot on. The dragon is spot on, and one of my favorite scenes in there is when, Bilbo with the ring and the dragon and the little sound effects that they have and everything, and the riddles and just all of it.
I loved it so much. I had like the Disney book, the big record with the book, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy a copy of that because I wore it out. I loved it. And when they would show the movie, on these on these special nights, like CBS with their little, I would be like glued. I absolutely loved it. And the fact that, they got John Huston to do the voice of Gandalf in this. So
I'm not familiar with all the actors, but I just really love that movie. And they did make, of course, an animated Lord of the Rings, but it's okay. I prefer The Hobbit.
Yeah, I know there's some big fans of the Lord of the Rings movie, but again, I agree with you. This is like, I love Rankin Bass did just a phenomenal
Well,
job.
yeah.
with
Yeah.
I mean,
that.
I'm a mammoth Rankin Bass fan, and this is one of their top efforts.
You know, I don't ever want to see this reanimated. I want people to leave it alone and leave it as is. That's one of those
Yeah.
classics. You know, don't fuck with it.
Yeah,
So-
you're right. Go, yeah, say it, girl.
And they
Don't
really
fuck with it.
really do the whole story in 75 minutes. So you
Yeah.
figure, why did it take three-hour movies
Oh, don't
to
you
do
dare.
something that
My
this could
power's
do in
flickering,
75
guys.
minutes?
All right. Oh no. Oh no. We lost her. Somebody was somebody was hearing her say, yeah, don't fuck with it. Don't reanimate it. Uh-huh. Oh Lord.
I think Peter Jackson shut off the power
I
to
think
her
so.
house, but hopefully she will be back.
We'll give her a few more minutes.
And I just want to say, while we're on this, obviously, and then Rankin Bass, I think later, I think it was 85, 86, something. They did a 2-hour TV version of Return of the King to wrap up the story. So that's also worth, not as good as this, but it's also, if you like this, the same type of animation.
I think hopefully she'll be back. She'll just click on the link, hopefully come back. But yeah, I could talk about this for another 30 minutes. So if she's late, she's late. Which, we'll hold off. We'll hold the fort, Michelle. Yeah, I and the music in this, the incidental music, with the with the chorus and
I was just going to ask, did you like the original? Because they do like original songs for this.
Yeah,
right? Don't
I
they
did.
like where the Doors are singing?
Yeah, I actually did really like it. And again, I hadn't revisited it for years. I mean, like years. And I tried to get my son into it, and it wasn't his thing, right? But so one morning I was like, I want to rewatch that. It was on HBO Max. It might still be on HBO Max, or Max, whatever. And I was like, I sat down. It was early in the morning. I was just, man, this show still holds up. This show is so much better than, I mean, the movies were okay. I know people are fans of it and things like that, but this for me is like the ultimate. I mean, just the way that they did the animation,
I mean, look at that picture on the left. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that's why I always loved that. And again, I'm gonna get that. I'm totally gonna get that record again. I'm totally gonna get.
I remember those. They used to feel like Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you could go through the pages.
Yeah, and it was big. It wasn't like one of those small ones, because they had the small.
No, it was like a 33 1/3.
Yeah. And it was the cover and the way it looked, and man, I was like, "Are you gonna listen to that again?" I'm like, "Yeah, again." I drove my parents crazy with the Hobbit.
And
record.
You still have that?
No, I probably is somewhere at my parents' house. My mom is getting ready to move out of there. Well, she has moved out of there. They're about to sell the house. So I'm assuming when we go through the stuff that it will turn up. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, you need to like say, don't throw anything out.
Right. Because I did find another Edgar Allan Poe a story record that I have that I did retrieve, but that one's still somewhere in my parents' stuff. So let's hope. Pray I can find that record. I'll be playing it.
Okay, I'm back.
Right. Okay, we held the fort down. I told you, no problem. I love this movie, so it was easy.
It may go out again. So.
I think it was Peter
Yeah,
Jackson.
I actually watched this about a year ago because my library up the street had it, and I realized they had it, and I just borrowed it. I hadn't seen it in years, and I thought this was great.
It was. I could watch it today and still get something out of it. I don't know about Michelle. She probably could too.
It's good to watch in a thunderstorm. If I can keep the power going.
And while you were gone, I was telling Gary the incidental music in this, like just the chorus, in between the scenes, and then Gandalf's narrating, obviously, is amazing to me.
And I like the Gollum in this. I like when they get up there and they have to figure out that the key is the light coming into the key hole and everything, and it's great.
Oh yeah, and just the way that the voices, the voiceovers and all that the voice work in this is amazing.
Well, Rankin Bass never skimped on getting like top name actors.
Like
for all of
Orson
their
Bean is in
animations.
this. I mean,
Richard Boone, who was
Yeah.
in Have Gun Will
Yeah.
Travel, is Smog, and so.
Yeah. So, any more favorite scenes, Michelle, that you have?
Oh gosh, it's been a long time since I've seen this now, several months anyway. But the Eagles, when they come and help him and everything, I always thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Glenn Fry, Don Henley. That was great.
No, not those Eagles.
Oh,
no, not that.
Okay.
But the Eagles,
I thought you were talking about the music still.
No, where they come and rescue them from
I got you.
the orcs or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why can't I have birds like that come and
that
help?
Was very cool. I always liked when he pulled out Sting. And not the singer,
Sting
Gary.
was
Calm
in this
down.
too? Wow.
The sword Sting.
Yeah, and it's the
You should have got Elton John to do Gandalf then.
Which I thought the spiders were incredible. Lord, the spiders were incredibly creepy.
Yes.
But when he, and their voices that they did for the spiders was exactly how you think an evil, like big spider like that would talk. So,
I honestly, and I'm not lifting something up to run something else down. I actually think Tolkien, from what I've seen, works better in animation than it does live action. Going by this, because I have all the love for this and for the other one that they did.
I think the Lord of the Rings was a good idea to make that a movie more than animated. Personally, I know what Michelle, she said she didn't care for that either. So I'm assuming you agree.
I never saw the Hobbit live action movies because this was enough for me. No.
All right. So let's move on to your next choice, because we could be here all day geeking out over the Hobbit. So.
Oh, yay.
Michelle, go.
Oh, she's frozen. We lost her.
Again? Oh, no. She'll be back. So obviously everybody knows what this movie is. If you don't know, I don't know what to say. You need to, I don't know. You need to go watch it. So Superman 1978, Richard Donner. One of the best Superman movies ever made.
For me, this is still, in my opinion, the best superhero movie ever made.
Yeah, by far.
I mean, it's epic. I mean, you go from that epic beginning on Krypton, and then you get the bucolic Smallville, small town life, and then it shifts over to Metropolis. It's all
and just the scenes, like the beginning scenes actually, with his father and oh God, I can't remember their names, but Zod
and Ursa.
Yeah, and the dumb one.
Non.
Non. That's perfect name for him, Non.
But I mean, this is a very small niggle that Marlon Brando had no clue on how to pronounce Krypton. He goes, here on Krypton. It's like, it's not Krypton, Marlon.
And actually, Jason showed me an interview with Christopher Reeve back in the day. When he was being interviewed, I don't remember what it was, a late night talk show, and he was talking to the host, and he was saying that he didn't respect Marlon Brando because Marlon Brando just did it for money, and that apparently they didn't get along at all. But I thought Marlon Brando did a really good job. I didn't have a problem with, but Christopher Reeve didn't like him because he felt like he wasn't taking any of it very seriously.
I never heard that.
Yeah, there's an interview out there somewhere, and I'm sure there's probably some truth to that. But I did think Marlon Brando did a great job, and I did like the beginning scenes where they're put into the little glass prison. I thought that was a really great intro for a movie, just a start for a movie, and just with the music, John Williams, Jesus.
Oh, see, this is my favorite John Williams score.
Mine
even
too.
Better than Star Wars.
Yeah. Mine
and
too.
Even those titles, because in Star Wars, the year before it just had the roll up, the 2D roll up. And in this one, you had the as the letters come out and then go back in on the opening and everything. And
Yeah, I was obsessed with this movie as a child, and this wasn't my choice at all. This is her choice, but in fact, I was probably the only girl in elementary school with a Superman lunchbox, and it had his face
good for
on it.
you. Good for you.
So yeah, I was like really, and my mom bought me magazines, like with the movie magazines you would get, and I like was obsessed with this movie.
What was your favorite part of the movie?
God, I like the scene in Metropolis when, things start, going airy, like he rescues Lois from the
first night when he's
yeah,
doing all the
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I love all that. I think
You've got me, who's got you.
Yeah, I really love all that. I don't know, I just love the film. It's like Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman's
Lex Luthor,
great.
perfect. And it was just like perfect casting. Like I said, Richard Donner. I'm a huge fan of Richard Donner. He was great. So sad that he left us, but we did it again. We held the fort down. Luckily, we know these movies you chose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're like, I don't know anything. Do you know
come
about this movie?
Don't do this. Just. Oh boy.
All right, so hurry. Tell us about Superman.
So what do you think about Superman?
I love him. I gotta speak fast. Just watched this the other day, and such a classic movie. And Superman for me is definitely Christopher Reeve.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he just great, classy actor, and he just fit the whole role. The bumbling Clark Kent, and yet the Superman, the hero that everybody wants and needs. And I love how when he's on his way here, from as a baby and he grows and his father's always speaking to him, giving him instructions and everything. It's like, well, gosh, we kind of do that for our kids all throughout their life. Even when we're not there, whatever we've said maybe will still resonate with them even as they grow and we may be stepped away for whatever reason. One of my favorite scenes is when he takes that green crystal that calls to him, or when he, I guess, becomes of age, and he goes, to, I guess, the Arctic Circle or Antarctica or wherever it is, and he throws it, and his home forms. And it's like, damn, I wish it could be that easy, but all the knowledge that he has at his fingertips. I mean, I've always liked that.
I thought that the construction and the special effects with I guess it's the Ice Palace.
No, it's the Fortress of Solitude.
Fortress of Solitude. Okay. Yeah,
it looks like an ice palace to me. Okay,
what? You're watching too many Hallmark movies, Andy. It's not an ice palace. I said you've been watching too many Hallmark movies. It's not an ice.
Oh no! This bitch does not watch any Hallmark movies.
Yeah, as we were watching it the other day, my husband was like, damn, those crystals really are beautiful.
They are.
Just the whole intricate design of them.
Oh, the production design was by, I want to say he died shortly after this movie was released, and he got an Oscar for the art, for the production design, I think. But no, the production design of this movie is amazing.
Yeah. The scene, and my husband and I, we were talking about that the other day. It's after Lois dies, and he goes and he pulls her out of the car, and then he takes off, and he's got this really angry look on his face.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, nope, I don't ever want to see that. Nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that look pointed at him.
No, at you, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, geez.
I think, more than any other actor who's ever played the role, Christopher Reeve is the one who's most believable in the transformation from Clark Kent to Kal-El, because a lot of the other actors, not running them down, just noting the difference, think that all they need to do to transform from Clark to Superman is take off the glasses and do nothing else change. But with Christopher Reeve, go back and watch the scene where the first time that he changes, his stature, he stands up straight, his whole body language transforms in an instant, and you can absolutely believe why nobody would tack onto the fact that these two people are the same, because he transfigures himself just in the way that he shifts. And I think that is probably the key scene in this movie.
And that was, from what I understand, that was his idea. He actually fought for Clark Kent to be different. And I think that was a good idea. Yeah. I mean, he needs to be different otherwise.
Yep.
Yeah. And when Lois was going to get robbed by the gunman in the alley. And of course, he acted like a scaredy cat, and he caught that bullet and then fainted, but how he became all demure and everything. And then, but when he puts on that Superman persona, it's like, here I am, I noticed that watching it the other day. So, and of course,
Gene Hackman is still the best Lex Luthor.
I agree. Yep. I love Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. Definitely. Nobody can top him.
It was cast very well. Something that they have a hard time with these days is casting. Yeah. They didn't have that problem with this movie.
Yeah.
I did like Gene Hackman's, Lex Luthor's lair, though. I mean, I'd love to have a place with a.
Oh my God! Like with the pool and awesome. It was awesome.
That was great.
Aren't you proud of me, Andy, that I haven't started going on and on and on about Valerie Perrine in this movie?
You know what? I was just going to say, why haven't you mentioned Miss Tessmacher?
Miss Tessmacher.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Valerie Perrine is very visually appealing in this movie.
Yeah, she's busting out at the seams in this.
Yeah, or even in the pool scene where she's lounging by the underground pool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm gonna say this in this picture to the right. I think that the reason when they picked Henry Cavill is, like, I noticed from the side profile, it's very similar.
Yeah.
And I think that was good choice, because they weren't morons, and they were trying to pick somebody that was kind of like that people could connect to Christopher Reeve in a way, and I think that was a good thing. Now it's all gone to shit, and I don't know what to say other than that. James Gunn, you're on my shit list.
Uh-oh.
I'm not. I don't. As long as movies as long as this is out there, I don't even really think you need to bother with all the other ones. Just watch this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like the first two in that series, and that's pretty much it.
This one is so good. This is a good choice.
Yes, and John Williams did the musical score for it, and yes, love John Williams. Oh, and Richard Dreyfuss and his obsession with mashed potatoes.
Yes, that is probably my favorite scene of the whole movie, because the looks on his family's faces is what's so funny.
Yeah. Well, even to this day, you make mashed potatoes and you can't help but do that mountain in your mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Even in the series Spaced, you see Simon Pegg sitting there making his mashed potatoes into that mountain.
Yeah.
So
it's an iconic scene.
It is. And that, really got me into thinking about the aliens and, the definite possibility that they're there. And the ending scene for me, where all these scientists and military are at and behind Devil's Tower there. And there's like this whole industrial complex, and they've been studying these guys forever. And, they're trying to communicate to them through music, and music is a universal language.
Yeah.
It's all nothing but mathematics. And it's like they make contact, and they invite Richard Dreyfuss, to go with them. It's like, oh, I want to go.
So my question is, would you, if you had that opportunity, and I've asked Jason this, and he said absolutely he would go right now.
Oh, of course, in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So that's your answer. So my thing is like, hell no. I am not taking my ass in there. Nope.
If the aliens look like the people in your poster, you better believe I'm going.
The only way I would go in there is if they all look like Henry Cavill, dressed as the Witcher. Then I would go in there.
Yeah, or our guy, that one guy.
I can't say, and I've done very well, thank you.
with a rectangle shaped vehicle.
Yeah.
So,
You mean
but,
Paul McGann?
yeah, Paul McGann, yeah.
That'd be good
John
too.
Pertwee.
Yeah,
John
You know
Pertwee.
what also is that I was thinking that I'm really glad this movie, I mean, boy, you think about it, it says 1978, but I remember coming out like at the very tail end of 77, because 77, a year that could produce both Star Wars and Close Encounters, that was pretty amazing. But that a movie like this, I think that, I mean, because remember the original promo, even the trailer that you could watch on the DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, it just has that long, slow thing up the road. And even the poster was just the road going up to the far, like hills and things. It says, first encounter is this, second encounter is this, third encounter is this. And even in the trailer, no scenes of anything. You didn't know, you saw a few things of Richard Dreyfuss, but the whole ending scene, and even at the beginning, where they're all waiting on the road, all those observers are on the road, and the little tiny UFOs come around and the police cars are chasing them and stuff. But even especially this scene, none of this was revealed until you went to the theater and actually saw it. And there's no way that something like this could happen in today's spoilerific. Everybody knows every detail about the movies before they come out. Here's all the production shots. Even the magazines didn't run photos or anything until the movie came out. So it was really something that just could not happen today.
I think that's and Michelle, I don't know if you would agree. I think that needs to happen. I wish that could happen again. It probably would never happen again because of social media. But but I think that's what made films back then so good. It was the same with E.T. It was the same with a lot of movies back then.
Yeah, entice me to go to the movies. Make me want to go spend the money instead of, oh, well, that's the whole movie in 2-minute trailer. Really? Why?
They don't even, and they knew how to make a trailer back then too for this movie.
Yeah.
They don't know how to make trailers anymore. You can't watch a trailer and go, okay, I know that's probably going to be a solid film, right?
Yeah.
Without them revealing something. Now they reveal everything, and the trailer is the worst scenes put together. Nobody knows how to do an edit anymore.
Yeah, the trailer for this was just that long, slow pan up the road as the narrator was going, a first encounter is this, a third encounter is contact. And then it gets to the top, and then the light comes over, and then it's just Close Encounters of the Third Kind, a Steven Spielberg film. Because everybody knew Steven Spielberg from Jaws. And that was all you got.
Right.
Yeah. Every time there's this one road we have, and it's got you got to cross over railroad tracks, and there's, the little, post there with the flashing lights. And every time I go to drive over that road, I kind of like, look, and I kind of look up, I'm wondering and waiting. So I can't help it. It's just ingrained into me from that movie,
Yeah. It made an impact on you. Yeah, definitely. I think the reason is that because as much as there's a lot of science fiction elements that's kind of fantastical in this, it's also done it through a lens of realism.
Right.
That I think is lost on they have films like today, like Nope and stuff like that. That's just the most ridiculous thing, ridiculous premise. It doesn't seem real. This had a sense of realism. And I think that's why it probably, you do that.
Yeah. And, the fact that you had the little boy get taken.
Oh, that to me is the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. It is.
And then when he comes back and, he's changed.
Goodbye.
Yeah. and he's crying and everything. It's like, well, gosh, what happened with that little boy and those aliens? What did they show him and teach him?
Right.
What did you both think about the design of the aliens at the end? I mean, of the look in that scene. What did you think about that?
Go ahead, Michelle.
I thought it was pretty great, considering what I'd picked up here and there. But for that initial design for this particular movie, it fit my narrative of what I thought an alien would look like.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of a humanoid form ish. And they were able to communicate, with the hand signals, and it just, for me, it fit the whole narrative.
As much as I thought the design was really awesome for 1978 of the aliens, me and Jason have had this, not an argument, but this discussion about how I feel that I would wish it for me. Like I didn't need to see the aliens, and I kind of felt like it would be much more interesting if you hadn't shown them. But you know, it's like I think it's we've gotten into this debate where I'm like I would have been just as fine if it just would have ended with them, you know, him walking into the spaceship and us not seeing, you know.
Okay,
anything.
I'm really curious as to what you both think about this then. One of the things that in later years Steven Spielberg said is that the one thing that he'd go, maybe not the one thing, that's what he said, but he said one of the things that he would want to go back and change. He said he absolutely would go back and change the ending from Close Encounters because he said that movie was made when I was like young and single. And then later when he became a father, he said, there's no way that I would have an ending to the movie where Richard Dreyfuss basically abandons his family. Now, granted, we haven't seen them since the midpoint of the movie, but still, his point is that he basically goes off and makes this choice to abandon his family forever. He said he would absolutely not do that.
I think it made it... Later. But see, I disagree because even though like I despise that, right? I think that's I think the character Richard Dreyfuss's character had lost his mind a little bit, and that made sense to me. So to me, I think if he would have gone back and you know, I just don't think it would have had the same impact, the same, you know, I don't know. To me, it just needed that. It just made sense. Of course, he's going to just abandon his family because he's lost his mind. I mean, come on. You see the picture on the bottom there. That's a man that's lost his mind. Yeah. I mean, he's building, he's taking potted plants and building like a big, you know, mound in his home.
I think just because for me, it's like, it doesn't really bother me, but I mean, they don't even really resolve it. They have the scene where they do a freak out and she drives off and that's the end. It's like, that's just a weird way to, you know, resolve that. You know what I mean? It's like, it feels like unfinished.
Right.
That part of it.
Time Mechanic said his wife was Terry Garr too. So I guess he didn't understand. Fan, like,
obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So.
Oh, did we lose Michelle again?
I think we did. Apparently.
Well, this is her third one, so we're almost there.
Let's see. Hopefully, we'll know this next one. Because then we're in trouble.
Now, can I ask, did you see, I think there's 3 different versions of this movie. There's the director's cut, which they made a big hullabaloo about in 1980 with the re-release, which was just 2 minutes of extra light show footage. Did you see those?
I saw the original when I was young, and then but I think the last one I saw was the director's cut, and I didn't really see the point in it, really. You can watch the original, and it's just as good. But I mean, the last one I watched was the director's cut, and it's been several years. And this is one of Jason's favorite movies. So,
and I love Francois Truffaut as the Frenchman.
Oh yeah,
in this. Yeah.
Okay, she said she's trying to get back.
Okay.
So we'll just put the next one up. And,
yeah.
Oh, obviously we've seen this.
I've never heard. What is this movie about?
I know. What is this? What is this movie? I have no idea.
It'd be funny. You know, it'd be really funny if did you ever see Hardware Wars? You've seen Hardware Wars, right? Which is the little, no. It came out right after. It's online. It's on YouTube. It's basically I think a few months after Star Wars came out, somebody put up what became like an iconic, like 5-minute thing. It's designed like a trailer, you know. Okay. And basically it's all Star Wars, but everything in the little short film is appliances, like a waffle iron and an iron and all this stuff, and with human characters being Luke and Han and Leia and stuff, and Chewbacca is like a hand puppet and stuff. But basically, it's like Hardware Wars, where everything in the movie is made out of hardware. And then the slogan for that trailer was, "You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $3 goodbye." So,
oh no, I've never seen that. I'll have to check it out.
But yeah, it's on to be on YouTube.
So Windology says, I think it was open-ended in as much as he could always be brought back at some point too. Yeah, I got that too. And talking about actually the Richard Dreyfuss.
Because they have, you know what? Maybe Spielberg missed the beat by not doing a sequel to E.T. and then bringing where he meets Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
We just combine the two. Where maybe E.T. Is like just an offshoot of the race of the aliens in Close Encounters, and they're all
Well,
just
yeah, that could be. Yeah, I've heard people actually say that.
So when ET
It's
comes
a
back
weird
to
thing.
Earth, there's Richard Dreyfuss standing there. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting tie-in. That would have been.
So, what are your thoughts about this little known film?
I don't know. It's all right. It's the new movies are so much better, and I don't know. There's no Ray in this. There's no the bestest ever in this. This is
To me, this is still the best.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I don't really. There haven't been Star Wars I've been interested in really since Return of the Jedi, but everybody says, well, Empire is better. Empire is better. It's like, no, this was.
I hate Empire. I don't hate it. But it's like I don't see. First of all, like it's just a bratty kid bitching about like having to train. That's how I view Empire.
Oh, but enough about Star Wars. Oh,
yeah,
just
but
kidding.
enough.
Just kidding.
I remember seeing that. I'm back for I don't know how long.
Right.
I mean, I remember seeing Star Wars like I was 8 or something. My sister took me and we saw it at the drive-in theater. But I think Star Wars also helped me with my, love of science fiction in general. I didn't understand it as an 8-year-old kid, but later in life, I can go back and watch it and get certain things from it.
Probably different things too.
Yeah. Huh? The music, once again, done by the fantastic John Williams. I mean, he's got that distinct music making ability, and you recognize his music anywhere. Han Solo from a carpenter, Harrison Ford from a carpenter to Han Solo to all the characters he's played. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I think he was a nerf herder, actually.
Yeah. Scruffy looking even.
Right.
And Han shot first. Sorry, everybody, but Han shot first. My son and I had that debate.
Right. So let's put it to the chat. Who shot first? Hashtag who shot first?
Han shot first, of course. Any decision that's made as retroactive political correctness can be. Please, give me a break.
Yeah, obviously.
And then we can't forget the quick scene where the brother and sister kiss.
Yeah.
Is that your takeaway from Star Wars?
Yes,
Wow.
Star Wars, the sensitive exploration of forbidden feelings. That's what I think of when I think of Star Wars.
Well, here's.
I do wish lightsabers were real. I think scientists now, though, have come up with something close to it, but nothing as fantastical as what's in the movie. But boy, I sure wish they were real so we could do some things with them, The
one thing and it's hard to do, to go back and watch the original. I don't mean like the stupid special editions. I mean, if you can actually watch the original in its original form, and just for whatever way, put everything else out of your head. The way that they could actually build up a whole mythology just with like single lines that let it play out, like where Obi-Wan says, that was, in the dark times before the Empire. And that's all you needed. You didn't need anything else. You didn't need 3 movies to go back and make literal what existed in your imagination with just a really well-written single line of dialogue, because then you're left to conjure up everything that could have been like. The Galactic Wars, who was in that? I fought with your father in the Galactic Wars. That's all you needed.
Right.
You didn't need making all of that explicit, because then that locks it down into one thing. That's the one thing the dialogue in this movie did really well, was leave the important, you're just dealing with the immediate story. All the other stuff is just like fairy tale background for you just to make up in your own head. And that's always better than what somebody else makes up for you.
These days, they want to make a movie about everything that's been discussed
Yes.
in the original film, which is stupid, in my opinion. I think that's why we got the prequels, unfortunately. And I wasn't a fan of those at all.
They were okay.
Yeah, they were just okay. Liam Neeson was a highlight. right?
Yeah, I
Liam
like
Neeson was
him.
a highlight, but my only thing about the original Star Wars that I honestly wish that they could change is that I wanted to see Obi-Wan stick around a little bit longer, because Alec Guinness was just fabulous in this movie. And
Yeah.
I know he didn't want to, he just wanted to come in and do a small part, and that was it. But I would have loved to seen a really good showdown between him and Darth Vader in this movie. We got
And
one,
let
but it
me ask the
wasn't
two of you.
really.
Let me ask the two of you. Was Darth Vader better before they brought in this whole "I am your father" thing in this movie, or was he better as being a fully explained guy? It's like, well, here's his history. He was a good guy who didn't like sand, but then he fell, and all this stuff. Or better here, where he's like just this dark force.
I like the dark forceness
Me,
of the
me
nature.
too. Me too. And my son has said this, and I raised him so. He said that if they ever made a Darth Vader movie, it needs to be a dark movie. It needs to be a real, a movie for adults, because we need to see Darth Vader as a dark character.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Not this, I don't know. I think they kind of they watered it down. Although I love Return of the Jedi, I love that movie.
Mhm.
That is one of the things. Yeah, I think needs to change. Should have changed. She still should have remained still evil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all kids want their parents to be, I guess, be their hero, be good, be whatever, So there was maybe just a sliver of humanity, but he didn't find it until, right before the end. But, I know we had the prequels, which you kind of saw the background and how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, but I want to know what happened between that time to make him as dark as he was in Star Wars.
And I think that's what my son was saying. Like he wants to see a series where, in between,
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know, like the Obi-Wan series, I don't know if it touches on that for Disney, but it's Disney Plus. I mean, I'm talking about a real show.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if Obi-Wan could be a really good show. I have no idea. I haven't watched it, but I know that Anakin is in that show, but I don't know much about it.
Everything. I mean, this may seem extreme to me. I'll say everything except the original trilogy, and I would actually even want to say everything except this movie is absolutely unnecessary. We don't need to. I mean, when you're dealing with Darth Vader, I don't really honestly care about his childhood or whatever. Basically, that's why I like this movie, because it's the purest one. It's basically good versus evil. It's a space fantasy fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need the psychology of the characters. I don't need, I mean, Hans has a redemption. He goes from the guy that blows away Greedo, and then he turns around and comes back for Luke, which is the out of your seat cheer moment of this movie. Everything else to me is just unnecessary noise. That's why I've always liked this one the best.
And let's talk about the elephant in the room, the new cuts of the movie, which basically have switched out.
Oh, please,
Anakin.
Yeah, I like the original.
Yeah, that is a travesty that they ever did that, and they're very hard. You can find them. Somebody's put together DVDs of them, but they're hard to find. And it's like if you find one, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Where it's the original ending of Return of the Jedi, and all the other extra stuff that they put in, like the reissues, is just ridiculous.
There is the DVD. There is a DVD version, and I want to say there was a box set that came about like 10 years ago, and the box set was kind of like a beige thing. It had all 9 movies in it, and it had a picture of like the little kid in it, Jake Lloyd, on the cover, but it was like Tatooine. And I think that version, or maybe not that one, but maybe like there was like 2 DVD sets of Star Wars Empire and Return of the Jedi. And the second disc in that Star Wars set had the original unedited.
Right.
They all had the unedited, unspecial edition versions.
I think there were some fans that actually had taken an old something they recorded off her television, edited it, and
Oh
basically
yeah, that's out on the net. Yeah.
yeah. And that is actually the original, how it looked originally when you actually would go to the theater and watch it.
This movie is missing only one scene, which is that at the very ending, they should have given Chewie a medal too.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean he was there and
I mean, yeah.
he did
I get
something.
I get the height discrepancy or whatever, but he could have kneeled down and she should have put a medal on Chewie as well.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'm missing from this movie.
Yeah, Archer makes an interesting comment. He said the thing that surprised him most about the prequels was that the original films gave him the impression that the Empire is maybe centuries old, not 16 years. I know there are tons of Star Wars fans out there and understand that lore. And
that can't be, because Obi-Wan said that he fought with Luke's father in the Galactic Wars and before the Dark Times, before the Empire. So the Empire couldn't have been older than Obi-Wan and Luke's father.
So I'm like I said, I'm not all big in the lore. I just like the Star Wars storyline itself, you know.
Yeah, me too. I'm not going to get that deep to it.
But
that's not even being deep. That's just going by the
I know,
the line
but
that they mentioned in the movie.
But there's, I mean, you got books and you got branches off of that, and
that's
you branches off of that, and it's like, well,
it must have been about 10 years
know?
ago. I was in a bookstore and I saw a paperback book, and it was literally about this thick. It must have been about 600, 700 pages. You know, those ones.
Yeah.
All it was a book summarizing all of the Star Wars novels. It was like a book listing like covers and everything. And a 600-page book, which is just describing all the other books. That's insane.
Tons and tons. My brother used to read them. Tons and tons and tons and tons. Yeah.
Man, it's such a vast universe. It's more vast than Star Trek, I think. I don't know.
Do you think it's more vast than Doctor Who?
I don't think it's as vast as Doctor Who, but
it's
boy, some
close.
of those rabbit holes that they can go down, it's like, damn.
I think they all have vast universes, but for Doctor Who and Star Trek, it's universes that we've seen on screen. Most 95% of all the background from the Star Wars universe has come by people writing stuff for the books and for the comics and for all the other, and which people say is not canon. Who knows? But you know.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, you'll be very pleased with this one.
I love this.
That bridged the gap when I started watching Star Trek, actually in the 80s, and then I had to go back and watch this movie that tied in the old series, you know, to the Wrath of Khan, which is what I remember seeing. And I remember sitting there watching this, and I'm like, okay, come on, move a little faster, you know, move a little faster. But it's still Star Trek. I mean, we get to see Spock on his home world, you know, going through Kolinar, trying to decide whether he's going to shed all emotion. And it's like something was calling to him. And so he stopped, I guess, T'Pau from putting that necklace on him, saying, no, I'm going to keep my emotions and I'm going back, you know, and you get to see him reunited with Kirk and everything. And, you know, Aaliyah, she becomes this probe for V'ger, and that the storyline, it was interesting, you know, and she had this relationship with Matt Decker, and then she got transformed, and he still cared for her, but she was like this robotic being and was trying to understand everything. And the special effects for it at the time were, I thought, really, really good. Seeing Spock, you know, crying and then laughing, it's like, okay, that's new, because, you know, we're used to Spock being so logical and not showing any emotion. And then this, when he tried to mind meld with V'ger, or that it's been a while since I've seen it with that ball of light, and then it, knocks him out, and he's thinking about things, and then, he's learning more about himself and growing as a character too. So, I don't know. I like the idea of them coming across something that Earth launched originally, and it got modified over time, and then this satellite. It's an interesting concept. So,
all right, Gary, I know you want to say something.
No, you go. What do you think about this movie?
I actually did not like this movie when I was excited about it because I think, well, a Star Trek movie, that's going to be really awesome. I remember when it aired on television, I was just ready because we all sat by the TV really close. That's why I'm blind. Yeah. Yeah, and I remember just couldn't wait, and I just found it incredibly boring when I was a kid. But I did rewatch it, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't the Wrath of Khan, but I mean, right. It was definitely a slow burner for sure. Definitely a slow burner.
Yeah.
My biggest gripe though was these really bland uniforms. I agree with Grandma Miranda.
Yeah.
Why this was I thought this was a good idea. I don't know. I don't know what their thought process was about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know they wanted to differentiate from the big, bold primary colors of the TV show, but this was kind of too much in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were just trying to be they're really trying to make a serious science fiction.
Well, no, they were obviously.
And I agree, that was great, but.
Yeah, granted, well, first of all, I mean, I love this movie. I grant the shortcomings in its original form, but if you watch the newly released director's cut on Blu-ray, they don't really change that much, but they pace it better. They put some stuff back in that not going beyond what was possible back in '79, but it really kind of transforms it. And had they been able to release that version back then, I think a lot of people's things would be different. Yeah, exactly, Andy, what you said. I mean, everybody about the big ideas. I mean, everybody remembers, the banter in the original between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and all of that kind of stuff, and the beautiful women, and Kirk's and all this kind of stuff. But Star Trek was a series of big ideas. And I think that they wanted to not do the kind of Flash Gordon-y, for the movie, the Flash Gordon-y Star Wars-y aspect. They wanted to kind of go more toward big ideas, kind of like 2001-ish.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. I mean, I know that you hate that movie, but yeah, I think that's what they were going for.
Well, I mean, and in terms of the plot, I mean, I think there is a lot of great character stuff there. I mean, Spock's arc is transformative in this. Kirk's arc from, being a useless bureaucrat now to basically rediscovering himself and his place on the ship. McCoy, I mean, it's just basically those three. All the other characters are there, but it's basically these three have their own individual kind of journeys and stuff. And I mean, you have Decker and Troy, Decker and Ilea, which basically Roddenberry then lifted 10 years later to create Riker and Troy. And the story itself is basically just a redo of the Changeling episode from, I mean, basically it's like, you change a couple of knobs, but it's the same story.
Right.
And then you have the iconic Jerry Goldsmith music, which is so good that they used it for Next Gen. And, directed by Robert Wise, who was one of the iconic Hollywood directors, Sound of Music, all of that. And so this was always going to be a big movie full of kind of big ideas. And it does kind of get slowed down, with, it's hard to make out in its original form about what's going on when they get inside V'ger. That's one of the other things about in the new director's cut. Everything is so clear and upgraded. You know exactly where you are at any given moment inside V'ger, which is probably the main improvement for the motion picture director's cut. You never are unsure about kind of what's going on. I mean, there's a question of whether, such an advanced race as could. Oh, and then later in some of the lore later on in some of the original novels and stuff, it's basically now not assumed, but it basically now has been theorized that the original Voyager 6 landed on the Borg homeworld. And the Borg were the one who did all the upgrades to V'ger and then sent him back out,
that's interesting.
Which is an interesting idea. But as Persis Kambata, as good as Ilea, was like, Voyager needs the information, and kind of, that's kind of weird, but
kind of.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, we would not have had Wrath of Khan had it not been for this movie.
No, I agree. And Wrath of
not only
Khan is
because they
movie.
said, look, we want to do another one, but it can't be as high budgeted. They reused a lot of the effect shots, like in Wrath of Khan, where the Voyager is departing space dock. That's from this movie. So this movie really helped, create what Wrath of Khan turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of, as Darren says, I mean, it's an intelligent film. It's very absolutely true to the ethos of Star Trek. But I think at that point, 1979 was filled with movies that took about everybody was writing the Star Wars bandwagon. And it generally takes about 1 or 2 years for the movies to come out. That's why in 1979, 1980 was all the Star Wars clones, low budget Star Wars clones. And so everybody was still in that mindset. The sequel to Star Wars was only about like 6 months away. And I don't think people were willing to kind of power back and do a movie that wasn't like the kind of Star Wars thing. At that
after Star Trek, the series got canceled, I think the fans organized some sort of letter writing campaign, and that's what led to this movie.
Well, the letter writing campaign came after the second season, which led to the renewal for the third season. Okay. What happened between was the first Trek fan conventions.
Okay.
Not big ones. I mean, small ones that kind of then grew and grew and grew as people realized, hey, there's, the original series went into syndication. We had the animated series in 1973 and 1974. So there was all of these where Trek stayed alive through various means until this movie. And then there was Star Trek Phase 2, which was going to be an actual ongoing TV series back in 1977. Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to be in it. They were going to have a new young Vulcan character to be science officer, but everybody else was doing it. And when they decided, hey, Star Wars hit big, we can't settle for just a new TV series. We've got to do a movie. They took the pilot script from what was going to be in that Phase 2 series and rejigged it a tiny bit and actually made that the script for this.
Cool. Okay.
All right. So the next 5 is not my choices, although they could be my choices. I don't know, but they're just 5 that I think from the genres we discussed today that were missed. So that way anybody can give their thoughts on the movies that I've chosen. And of course, this is in the horror genre, which would be, I consider it horror. I mean, come on, it's a gigantic shark eating people. Jaws. So anybody wants to give their thoughts on the movie Jaws?
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Well, this was not a boating accident.
We're going to need a bigger stream.
Oh yeah. I mean, that whole ad-libbed USS Indianapolis speech from Robert Shaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's iconic. It's requoted so many times in so many different movies now.
The interesting thing, the next time you watch this movie, during that scene where they're just sitting there, and actually there was a much longer script. Robert Shaw said, I can't remember all this. So basically he chopped it all down and did what we see. Don't watch Robert Shaw. Watch Richard Dreyfuss watching Robert Shaw.
Right.
Because Richard Dreyfuss is just sitting back there with this look of awe on his face as he's listening to Robert Shaw do this speech.
And I actually watched a doc on this movie because I love docs on movies. And basically, I don't know if it was Richard Dreyfuss or Roy Schneider had said that Robert Shaw was drunk for that entire movie. So let me tell you, him doing that speech like that, drunk, respect. We're not worthy. I mean, I swear to God, literally, he was drunk the entire movie.
Farewell and adieu and the fair Spanish
He was not
ladies.
acting. Yeah. So I this movie's a great movie. It's one of the reasons why I don't like getting into like a beach setting. I'm always nervous when I go out in it. And this is the movie. Why? Because it is a horror movie.
And do we all agree this should have been the only one?
I thought Jaws 2 was all right. I don't know. I didn't think it was the worst.
Jaws 2, I like for the scene where he's confronting the council and he says, you better do something because I'm not going to go through that hell again.
Yeah.
I like that scene.
And guess what? He goes through the hell again. Yeah. But no, I thought the Roy Schneider, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw was like just amazing. Just amazing. Those three together are just great.
You've
in this
seen
movie.
You've seen Jaws.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. Like I said, I'm not.
You need to watch this.
But I know
it's not. It is horror, and I say horror. I mean, there's some gory scenes, right? But it's not like a typical horror. It's more like a suspense, like and the Great White is very like, and I like the idea in the doc that I watched. Actually, they really didn't. They didn't even know if half the time I think that I can't remember what they named the shark. They named it something. Bruce. Yeah. They didn't know if Bruce was going to work. So that's why a lot of the scenes, like you see, it's like suspenseful. You don't see the shark.
Right.
And
Michelle,
that's
there's really only 2 jump scare scenes in this movie.
Okay.
Andy, the one I'm talking about is the one where he's diving.
Yeah.
And finds the tooth and then something happens.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Roy Scheider scene.
Yeah.
But everything else is more just like what you are anticipating happening. So you could probably watch this, Michelle, without.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Nothing like that. Oh, it's really good. I mean, just anything for that. Just watch just the scene with Robert Shaw.
Is that where he's singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home" or something? I see Wendy.
That's one.
Okay. Well, I know that from some other show, and I'm like, I know that was in Jaws.
They're actually singing it really fast, and then one of the barrels pops up, and then they stop. It's like,
oh boy.
Yeah, it's a great film, and also Steven Spielberg, just awesome. And if you ever get a chance, watch the doc on this movie too. It's really interesting. It's been 4 or 5 years since I've seen it. But it's really
so you said that the shark's name was Bruce. Is that any connection, or is that maybe a reason why they named in Finding Nemo the shark and there was named Bruce too?
It's not named Bruce in the film. It's what the production people
right.
That's interesting.
They call, and it was always breaking down.
Wendy, I love Wendy's in the chat. Everybody's quoting lines. He can't go down with 2 barrels on him. Not with 2, he can't. Everybody's throwing out. And
this is better than that movie we watched on the B movie stream.
Oh yeah, this is better than Great White. Yes,
Great White,
look, do not confuse this with Great White.
Right. That's a terrible movie. This is a good movie. But so I think everybody can agree this is a great 70s movie. I'm surprised they're probably playing it on some channel right now. It's always playing.
Wendy says she knows this entire movie script by heart.
Thank you, Andy.
Well, it was missed. I mean, I have to put, and she's also the last scene in our intro. So
yes,
I have to. It's law.
I was actually looking at that series the other day at a used bookstore here, and I was like, man,
should I get it?
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Batman.
Yeah. All right, Gary. I know you want to. Go ahead.
No, I'm not. I mean, I can't.
It's fine.
I'm not going to wax her upside. I mean, she's great. I mean, she's nobody will ever. I mean, Gal Gadot. I'm not slamming Gal Gadot, who is great, but nobody can hold a candle to Linda Carter is one. Right. You just can't.
And I think a lot of that has to do with I can't speak for everybody and their age, but I think we're pretty much close to all the same generation, or and I think it's because we grew up with her, and I think just like the Incredible Hulk, we just you latch on to these characters in your children and you don't let go, and it's like you know, they're icons. I mean, this is people that say that women aren't represented, you know, back then. They so were. Look at Linda Carter. I mean, that was a very popular television show.
I do like the first season that was set in World War II more than I like a lot of the
80s,
the second and
of the 70s,
when they flipped to the 70s.
Yeah.
Because then it became, well, she's kind of a secret agent, but kind of a superhero. I just liked her being back in the age where she was originally created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the theme song is, you know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, and the one thing that they don't do, yeah, the one
and
thing
you know what's
that
great about that is not only the panels, but the scene where, you know, she actually leaps out, because that's what she's doing. She's leaping out of the comics into real life, which I thought was great. You know?
Yeah. Also, it's kind of like a Wild Wild West thing where they kind of did that.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
bravo.
Oh yeah, and that's something that I noticed the other day, and I was talking to Jason and I were talking, and something I've noticed is they don't really have TV theme songs anymore, like theme songs, you know, like in new series. It's like, it's just, you see the title and they go right into.
And they run the name credits over the action in the first like 10 minutes or whatever.
If they made a Wonder Woman show, you wouldn't have a cool theme song. No. And honestly, her outfit, I like the colors. Yeah, it's classy.
Very classy.
The one from this picture is I think her third season outfit.
I do like with the, you know, the cape and everything. I do have that Funko Pop too. So yeah, it's a classic. It's on. I think it's still on HBO Max.
Oh, it's everywhere. I mean,
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I think we've talked about Wonder Woman a lot through different streams. So, someone said nice earrings. See, this is the thing I heard earlier on. Before the show started. Someone saying that earrings like to bob up and down. So I'm assuming you're not talking about earrings.
Oh no, you know what that was is we were talking before the show about the art, and somebody like Julia had said something like, oh, Gary really likes this, and then I think Time Mechanic said something like, yeah, you know, those ladies were wearing nice earrings, and I said something like, oh yeah, I didn't realize they were wearing earrings.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. See, it was the hoops. You know what I liked about that was a nice touch. It's the 70s hoop earrings, and of course only a woman would notice that.
You know, and I thought also Lyle Wagner, I thought was great in this show. I mean, kind of a thankless role, but he did really good. Yep.
Steve Trevor.
And Steve Trevor Jr. All right, here we go.
I can't believe nobody chose this. I can't believe, Gary, that you didn't. I really did think that you were going to have Space 1999 on yours.
Well, why did you pick it?
I did. This is not my choices. This is just choices that nobody picked.
Oh, have you, Michelle? Have you watched Space 1999?
No, another thing I have to add to my list.
Here's the thing about Space 1999. Jerry Anderson, I'm a huge Jerry Anderson fan, and this was one of his, well, not really one of his last, I mean, mid-70s, Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, but as opposed to what you're seeing here, where you think, wow, it's full of space wars and monsters, it really wasn't. I mean, especially the first season was very, you've seen the first season, Andy, it was very slow, and it was very slow and cerebral. And if you thought the costumes in the Star Trek motion picture were bad, look at the costumes.
First of all, I like the costumes in Space Knight. It was superior to me than the Star Trek the motion picture, and I like the aesthetics of Space 1999 better. But
as much as I adore them on Mission Impossible, I just thought it was just a little bit too formalized until Maya showed up.
Okay. I didn't like season 2 at all. I didn't like season 1. I loved because I also love Victor, because Victor was like kind of like the heart of it, you know, like he was like the Spock, to the Martin Landau character.
So basically, Michelle, do you know the premise of the show?
No, I don't.
So basically, in 1999, there is obviously a scientific moon base, moon base Alpha on the moon. And the moon, for some inexplicable reason, is also where they store below the surface, like these deposits of nuclear material, radioactive material, which they don't want to keep on Earth for some reason.
Okay.
So, of course, there's an accident, magnetism builds up, and there's a mammoth explosion which blows the moon out of orbit and
with them on
it. And the rest of the series is the moon traveling like it has warp engines, around, and it's like everything they encounter, instead of the moon cracking in half or whatever is would probably happen, it basically propels it like a jet engine around, and the moon travels over, and it's who they encounter in this odyssey, because they're never going to get back.
Right. Okay.
I mean, they do try. They make attempts, but
I'll have to check that out.
I mean, and then the second year, it becomes more kind of faster. They bring in Maya, who's this gorgeous shape-changing alien,
okay.
and they try to make it. They try to make it a little bit more Star Trek-y.
She's got mutton chops, okay?
Yeah, and for some reason, this alien woman who can transform into any being in the universe somehow changes into Earth creatures for some reason. It's like, well, okay.
Well, didn't
but
she?
No, there's still a lot of love. I'm not dismissing it totally.
Right, but didn't she just some kind of weird, weird being at one point?
She changes into this creature that looks like that one from the Next Gen episode where
that's
where Wesley fell in love with the princess, and then her guardian was the creature.
Yeah, and then they had to put her in the infirmary and watch her.
I'm not dismissing it totally, because I mean, if you buy into the mood that they're trying to create in the kind of 2001-ish mood, if you buy into that, it's fine.
Yeah, it's not Star Trek. It's more like it's more like 2001.
I mean, the thing about Space 1999 in terms of a Jerry Anderson live action, the one I'd go for is UFO, which I think it was only on for one season, and actually Space 1999 is what is basically kind of the de facto second season of UFO, because UFO had a moon base with all the gorgeous women with purple wigs, and had this come back for a second season, they would have had most of the series on the moon base, but it didn't. And a few years later, they just took that idea of a moon base and then made Space 1999, which was kind of a whole separate concept to UFO. Yeah, let's get some chat. Let's get some chat comments. Yeah, that's for sure.
There wasn't much actual science in seven. No, there wasn't. I mean,
John Steve, you said you liked Victor, and the second season started, and they didn't explain where he went. So presumably he died or something.
No, yeah, they actually did. They did, but it was briefly. It was like, I think he had a heart attack or something. Something like that. I don't remember, but it wasn't like they made a big thing out of it. It was just like off the cuff comment, and I don't remember where. But yeah, I was pretty upset that he left, because I thought he really brought something to the show. Like, he was more like I don't know, a man of reason.
You didn't watch the whole thing, right? You gave up after.
No, I watched season 2.
Oh, I didn't know that you watched.
No,
season 2.
I did, okay. And Patrick Troughton is in an episode, and Peter Cushing is in an episode,
and Christopher Lee too. Yeah, so they had a lot of good British actors then. So
I think the last episode was the Patrick Troughton one, I believe.
Huh.
Yeah, Bringers of Wonder, I think is
Yeah, you're good with the names. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the names. Okay, so this one I know either one of you are going to be like, but this is another very popular movie in the 70s in the horror genre, The Exorcist, and this movie scares the hell out of me. I've probably seen it a couple of times, but a couple of times is enough for anybody to see this movie, to be honest. But what I liked about the movie was the realism feel that it had to it, and the subject matter obviously is very terrifying to me. Max Sydow and what's his name? I can't remember. It's Jason Packard-Stad's in this movie. He plays the other priest. Can't remember his name right offhand, but and Ellen Burstyn. I mean, all just incredible actors. And it's the scenes with Ellen Burstyn talking about her, what's going on with her daughter, is just heartbreaking. And it's not just yes, there is like the pea soup scene and the head spinning scene and all that, but it's much more than that. It's a very good drama. But yeah, for me, this movie is on one of the top 10 of all scariest movies of all time, in my opinion.
And I think the year it came out, it was like it was one of the top money makers.
It was, and there was actually people that were reportedly going into the theater and like coming out, and they were actually coming out because they were throwing up.
Well,
It
and
disturbed
I'm
him
not,
that
I mean,
much.
you're much more of the horror aficionado than I was. And
I am.
I've actually never seen this movie, but I have to think like at the time, like late 60s, early 70s, of course you had all the Hammer movies still coming over to the States with, like Dracula and some of the things like Wicker Man and stuff. But even still, that was like a whole different type. This seems to me to be like maybe the first type of horror movie where it was about this kind of like, demonology and possession that wasn't in the context of a fantastical kind of like son of Satan type of thing, but this is
Right.
something
No,
to where
this was like
it
a
invades
serious.
the lives of normal
This
people.
is actually based on a real case of a little boy that had been possessed, and they took a lot of this from that, which was a real case. And
Jeez.
yeah, so again, I mean, this is a good movie to watch if for me, if you're to me. And I don't know everybody in the chat's religious, but if you're questioning God and religion, just watch this movie, and I guarantee you'll be headed toward the church every single time, because it really is a very realistic thing, and I do believe these things happen. And that's one reason why I don't.
No, I agree. I think that if you believe in God, as I do, that
you have to believe there's the other side to that.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
You can't say that.
If you believe in evil forces, you have to believe in a good side of it. So it works both ways. And so for me, though, I've seen this movie twice in my life. That's probably enough. I actually read the book too. The book is very, very well written.
Now, did you see the sequel? Didn't they do like sequel like with Richard Burton a few years later?
All of them.
Okay.
And I actually, believe it or not, the ones with oh God, Skarsgård. Not Alexander, but his dad.
Yeah.
That one was actually pretty good. The beginning was actually pretty good. I liked it because it kind of talked about Pazuzu and
Linda Blair in that one too?
No, that was like because the demon that she gets possessed by, his name's Pazuzu. And the beginning was about them unearthing that spirit, because there was a bunch of archaeology. There's always archaeology in these movies, right? And they unearthed this demon in this small village, and then a lot of these villagers, they get possessed. And I can't remember the priest's name, but it was God, I can't remember. It's Skarsgård. He was in Thor.
No, I've heard. I know you're talking about. I can't remember.
And he was actually really good. He didn't get a really good rating, but I actually liked that movie. And I did watch the Exorcist 3, and I actually liked that one too with George C. Scott. That one was pretty terrifying.
Did you see Miranda's suggestion?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sin for Sam and Dean, they do good value exorcisms. Yeah, they can pull a demon out really quickly. That was always, I thought, was really funny. Watching Supernatural is like, watching shows like The Exorcist, where it takes, I mean, and the movie didn't show, but exorcisms literally take hours and sometimes days. Yeah. It's not just, okay, I say this and they come out. It's not like that. I mean, the person, people have died. So I always thought that was really funny. Like, they can just say this, and then they come right out of like smoke. I mean, in reality, no. This is probably more close to how exorcisms are done. But yeah, I like I said, it's a good movie, but it's not something when you're feeling good or feeling bad, it probably isn't good either. But it's definitely really well acted, I will say. If you can get past the really frightening scenes with her crawling on the ceiling, which
and like I said, I mean, even though the movies in general have been becoming more liberal in terms of violence and what you could show since like the very late 60s, Rosemary's Baby, et cetera, but this was like a whole other level.
It was. And I think it's because it was really real. I mean, I know you haven't seen the movie, but it is like, how Alien is that grittiness, that's real, that just gets under your skin. This is that same kind of movie that gets under your skin. Then you're just like, but at the same time, it shows that good, wins over evil in the end. And that is important to me when I'm watching a horror movie. I don't like the ones where, Like I did watch a movie with Toni Collette called, it's a good movie, but it's called Hereditary. And I watched that movie, and in the end of it, I just felt like I needed to go watch a Disney movie because it was just like it ended dark. And
Yeah,
bad.
some movies just kind of are so nihilistic, they just kind of revel.
Right.
In it.
And
it's
never,
like, I have no,
I that's not my thing. Like it's a good, they can be good movies, but at the same time though, it's like I need to know that good is going to win, especially in a movie
Yeah,
about
no,
the devil.
absolutely.
I understand
get
that. I understand that definitely.
And also, you know, even though I'm not I mean, I guess I'm kind of promoting the movie, but I also think that take this as, I don't know, take this in I'm trying to put this in a good way to say this. Take these movies, don't like absorb these types of movies all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I believe that if you do that, if you're just consistently watching these kind of movies, consistent, but like every day, like I don't watch horror every day because I think it brings stuff to you. So just know when you watch a movie like this, sometimes it can. I mean, it's a great movie, but again, I've seen it twice, and I'm not going back for a third time.
Yeah,
twice is two times is enough. But it is. I wanted to mention it because it was a very, very popular movie in the 70s and in the horror genre. So,
and the music for this, I've not seen the movie, but I've heard the music, and the music is that minimal.
Oh
piano.
yeah. Oh yeah. God, you know, I wish I would have like written that down. I love that song. Actually, he has more than one song that's really good too.
What was it, like Love Theme from The Exorcist or something?
No, it's Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, brain brain's starting to work. Yes, and it's a fabulous. And this is another fabulous movie that was filmed in Fort Worth, Texas.
I like this movie.
Yeah, I know.
Look at that poster. You don't get posters like this anymore.
No,
it's all Photoshop garbage.
So I'm going to ask you, Michelle, have you seen this movie?
I have once. The movie's been in the back of my head, and I want to go, get it and have it for my collection and watch it again.
Oh yes, it's fabulous.
I mean, from reading the synopsis about it the other day, it's like, damn, we're right back there now.
Aren't we?
And this, it
and
sure
it was
does.
filmed in a mall, wasn't it? Like
Fort Worth, Texas. I actually have the where it was filmed. I actually want to go there. It was the waterfalls and steps Logan jumps into to get back into the dome, or this active pool of the water gardens in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, all right.
And I don't know if the water gardens are still active. I looked it up after. Remember when we did that? We did a review of this, Gary, about a couple of years ago. And after that, I looked it up, and I wasn't sure if it was still active or not. But you can look up online and see the water gardens, and they talk about how like that was filmed there. But yeah, this is a fabulous.
Go back to the previous picture because we glassed there.
Michael York.
Yeah, well, is Michael York in this picture? Oh, yes, I guess he is. Okay, yes, he's the one that's standing next to Jenny Agutter.
Who's that?
And and this was the last major science fiction motion picture which was released before Star Wars came out and basically transformed the look of science, because everything else, from the mid-70s up till basically this one in movie science fiction, a lot of it was just dystopian. You had like Westworld, you had this, you had like Zardoz, you had all these dystopia movies, because that's where kind of science fiction was in the early 70s. And then Star Wars came out and flipped it. And everything was like, Pow Zam, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon thing. So this was like the last one of these dystopian type of.
And everyone looks so happy in that picture. And then, they go into this big arena and, they get zapped by some sort of, they go up and fly up in the air just to get zapped.
And please don't think I'm insane when I say this, but as much as I enjoy Logan's run, me personally, I actually prefer the TV series.
Oh, no, don't say that.
I really do. I think this is I think there's a few episodes which really do interesting things with the premise, like moving it forward. So I just want to say, yes, it was a short life TV show. It is a thing. And some people, not Andy, like it.
I've never
But I
seen
get why
it,
she does
but
it. I
I
understand.
I think I think what it is that I have this thing like, the original is always
no.
better.
Richard Jordan is great in this movie as Francis.
Oh, why does he plays really creepy characters in every movie he's in. It seems like, well, he actually passed away.
They have a really good
90
fight
something, but
in the old Capitol at the end of it. He and Logan.
Yeah. Isn't Peter Ustinov in this movie too?
Yeah, he's the old man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's the old man with the cats.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Very fun. I didn't mention Westworld. I almost put Westworld in here, but I figured we'll save that for another time.
There's one I'm waiting for you to put up, but I'm kind of curious if you end up not putting it up.
I don't know how many is this. What number is this? Because I only did 5.
I don't know how many that you were going to put up.
I don't know. I just did 5.
Oh, the one movie, and it's somebody mentioned in the chat that I thought for sure that you were going to put up.
What?
Salem's Lot.
I didn't, because you know why? Because we discussed it in another
that's
stream.
Fine.
Yeah, I
but
tried
still,
to keep...
if nobody's seen the original 1979 miniseries with David Soul and James Mason, go now and watch it.
Yeah.
And find one of Andy's old streams where she and I talked about.
Actually, I think those are private only because I'm thinking about doing is creating another channel and then having those just archived.
You will make Michelle watch it, and that'll give us another excuse to talk about it. That's a scary vampire, Michelle. The vampire from Salem's Lot.
Talking about that a couple weeks ago, and Andy was telling me. So
yeah. I bought the Blu-ray about the time that we actually watched the movie. Every time like we do these streams, I end up spending money.
But actually, you know what? It was only.
I
remember when you and I both did that. It was only like $10 on Amazon for the Blu-ray.
It was, and then we bought. You think you bought a copy? Did you buy a copy?
I did.
And then I bought a copy. And
you have to put up. You have to, before we get off Logan's Run. You have to put up Time Mechanics comment.
Peter, that is an insult to Peter Ustinov. Peter Ustinov is a fabulous actor. Joe Biden can't even like walk.
String a sentence together.
And actually, Peter Ustinov in that movie is actually about 1,000 times more coherent than
right.
Even though he's this.
What I thought was really, really interesting is like he just when he's showing his parents' grave and everything, and how incredibly sad that was.
He doesn't even remember their names.
Right, he doesn't. I think, what was he calling them? Like, he called them something, but it wasn't something like so generic. It was just, but but he was so happy for someone. Maybe that's why he was happy, because he was by himself.
Yeah.
I'm like, for somebody that's, has nobody, he's sure happy.
Even the little model work, at the beginning where you see the model of the whole city, and you see the little tram cars in the little tubes in the model. That's
I thought for the time they did a really good job, and it's a really entertaining show. You can't go wrong with Logan's Run. Westworld either, and I didn't put that in there because I figured at some point we'll be doing something again with the 70s. So
really quickly, I want to see this. I'm going to do this in a minute. So I just wrote up a list.
Let's see if that's possible.
Of all it is. This is why I think that the 70s is, for me, the best genre thing. Here are some other shows which we didn't mention, but which are products of the 70s. So regular live action, there was the Planet of the Apes TV series, short-lived, $6 Million Man, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, the live action Spider-Man, which I'm a huge fan of, with Nicholas Hammond, Battlestar Galactica, Quark with Richard Benjamin, a short-lived comedy series set in space. You mentioned Salem's Lot.
I would just say Quark.
Yeah, actually, it was done by Buck Henry.
You're thinking Star Trek, aren't
you?
So
for kids, we had Super Friends. We had Jason of Star Command, which was a live-action Saturday morning one. Space Academy, live-action Saturday morning. Land of the Lost, the Star Trek animated series. We have Shazam and Isis from Saturday mornings.
I don't remember Isis
if you remember
all.
those.
I vaguely remember Isis.
And then no, that was live action.
It was live action?
It was live action.
I'm trying to I distinctly remember.
They did a cartoon later with that character, but it was not this.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in the Mandela effect.
From
like,
the UK,
what's
we
going on
have from the UK like Seven. Obviously, in
Yeah.
the 70s, UFO that I showed the box for, Sapphire and Steel with David McCallum and Joanna Lumley. The Tomorrow People, which is a great British kids movie, which lasted about 9 seasons. Catweasel, which is a kids fantasy from the early 70s. And then the other great thing about the 70s TV is that a lot of TV movies, they had that movie of the week, you know, where it was like an hour and a half, like 2 or 3 nights a week, whatever, the ABC movie of the week. And they used to run a lot of like horror-ish, occult tinged stuff. Not a lot of hard sci-fi or hard fantasy, but you know, back because this was the era right after Exorcist. You know, so everything was on television was horror.
Or
possession.
even if they had like an episode of Starsky and Hutch had an episode about Satan.
Oh no, Starsky and Hutch fought that guy with the vampire at the end, and where he jumped off and he flew off, but of course he wasn't a vampire, so he died. Yeah, I remember the start.
Oh, okay, all
we
right.
should do a whole stream on the Starsky and Hutch vampire episode. That would be great, or maybe not. But
okay, maybe.
But 2 TV movies which are on YouTube, because I know that I checked, that I've got to call out. Just because, like Night Stalker, the original was a TV movie on Movie of the Week. One's called Killdozer, which, if you remember, is this kitsch thing where this group of workers are on this island and this alien entity possesses this bulldozer and goes around and starts killing off. And they're short, like 75 minutes, because it was 90 minutes without commercials. So it was like 75 minutes, whatever. But that's one of the most quote unquote famous ones, called Killdozer. But another one, which I think I saw on a rerun years later, and it was like, I was still a kid, but it was one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. And even now, I think it's terrifying. And it's on YouTube. It's a TV movie called Satan's Triangle. Again, Devil's Triangle. With Doug McClure, with Doug McClure and Kim Novak.
Wow.
And Alejandro Rey, who you might remember from the Flying Nun TV series. But basically, it's about this boat that gets discovered in the Devil's Triangle, and Kim Novak is like the survivor. But there's a lot of weird things going on. It was still, I tried watching it like the other way. I said, I can't get through this. It was still one of the scariest things ever. It's called Satan's Triangle. If you're a horror fan,
we'll have to do a challenge.
It's on YouTube.
See, I wonder if that's something that we could play and watch and see your reaction.
The Killdozer thing, I think my sons have actually talked about that.
See? And it's all free. Go to YouTube and put it in your to watch queue. Just
so
get
what's the other Satan's Triangle?
Satan's Triangle is the one with Doug McClure and Kim Novak, and then Killdozer, who has like some TV actors, like I think. So
it's kind of like the 70s Satan thing.
Killdozer right? Was 70. Killdozer was, I think, 73, and Satan's Triangle was 75.
Okay, you had me at Satan at 70s. I'm there. I like those really crazy.
And don't necessarily assume that is just a nice creative license title. That's all
I didn't
say.
think that. I'm not scared, Gary. I'm in. I'm ready.
So obviously the 70s is chock full of fantastic genre.
And this has been a lot of fun.
Oh, wait a minute. I wonder what Miranda said. Killdozer and the car one was cool. What was the car one, Miranda?
They had a car one?
I don't know what. Now I'm curious to see which.
The only car one I know is Christine.
No, it wasn't.
That was
not that one. Okay.
So, 80s. 80s.
How are we going to limit 5 is what I want to know. That's impossible.
Oh, is 80s is your favorite decade for genre stuff?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's a lot in the 80s.
All right, so we're still going to do it for 5, but we'll be back next week to our regular scheduled program. We'll be talking about Doctor Who Series 10, which is going to be exciting. More, and guess what? I'm going to say it, more Peter Capaldi. Everybody, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Happy July 4th.